Hello, screenwriters, and welcome to Writing for Screens. Today's live episode, Ask Me Almost Anything. My name is Glenn Gers, and I am the Chief Operating Everything at Writing for Screens, a channel in which I am trying to take some of the skills and tools and insights that I gathered for myself in a 25-year career writing for TV and movies, trying to put those in some kind of useful shape for you and leave them behind on my way out of the business. In order to do that, I have spent quite a while making a set of what I call lesson videos, which are here on my channel. This is a capture of the main page, and if you look down, scrolling down there, you will see the playlists. The first three playlists, here we go, are Screenwriting Essentials, Screenwriting Tools, Skills, and Craft, and The Process, Being a Writer. The point of these three playlists is to collect about 50 10-minute videos, each on a topic. The topic is there in the title and in the thumbnail. You can see the nice, big, bright colored letters. Genre, flashbacks, dramatic action, stuff like that. Whatever it is, please, I beg you, look at these videos. I spent years making them. I took the collected experience of my life and I put them into these things in as simple and usable a form as I could figure out, because I truly believe you have to figure out for yourself what kind of work you want to do, what kind of work you can do, what kind of world you live in. All of this is constantly changing and constantly individual, so there is no right or wrong way to be creative. There is no right or wrong way to do the work you want to do. What's important is figuring out what works for you. The only way I know to do that is to try and gather as many skills and tools and techniques and ideas as you can possibly do and try them for yourself. That's all I'm doing, is offering you stuff for you to try. If it helps you, take it. If it doesn't, throw it away and never look at it again. That's good. That's what we all have to do if we're going to try and be creative in this crazy world. Hello, O.D. Constant and Ming and Donna and Burgundy. Hello, hello, hello. Today is a wide open Ask Me Anything. I don't have much prepared. I did start with a couple of little items to let people file in, as it were. The first one is just a recommendation. I was reading a collection of interviews with artists about their creative process. One of them was Tony Kushner, the great playwright and screenwriter, who wrote something called Angels in America. This book, it reminded me, I bought the paperback of the two plays together in what is called the Revised and Complete Edition. It's a play, it's two plays. It is possibly among the greatest plays ever written as far as I'm concerned. It's really, really good, and I urge you, even if you are not interested in theater, to try reading through it, to learn about character and scenes and ideas and creativity. It's just so damn inspiring. It's beautiful, it's heartbreaking, it's funny. I urge you to buy it. There's the title is in the description here. You can purchase it from your favorite bookstore or online ordering service. That's the first thing I wanted to refer you to. The other thing is there's a thing called the Red Hand Files. This is a newsletter website by Nick Cave, the musician, and also he writes scores for movies. He had a band for a long time, I think he may still have, called The Bad Seeds, but he also does work on his own. Anyway, Nick Cave writes occasional newsletters on this site called the Red Hand Files. The link is down in the description. I urge you to sign up. You give the guy your email address and he emails you answers to questions that he has been collecting and creating for quite a while now. They are amazing. They are stunning. Some of them are damn funny. Most of them are deep and powerful and just knockout good. So I was going to read you today, this morning. I got one of his emails and it moved me a great deal. And I thought I would read to you a quote from this Red Hand file. It's number 311. Here we go. We are broken things amongst other broken things. We are imperfect and characterized by our capacity to fuck things up. Yet we still can move incrementally toward the greater good. This serves as grounds for both self-forgiveness and hope, and reflects our inherent human loveliness. We all have a job to do, and it is urgent business. We must make this world as bearable as we can. I believe, with no small amount of awe, that we have tremendous potential to achieve just that. I marvel at our collective and individual ingenuity. We are broken, yet wow, oh wow, look what we can do. We can be good to one another. We can love one another. We can be kind. I have witnessed such kindness from people, ordinary kindness from broken individuals. Kindness that dismantles the structures of self-hatred and cynicism by recognizing our shared condition. We are in this life together, each woven into the other, with our individual sorrows being merely a drop in a vast sea of mutuality. We need one another, Helen. To hell with shame and guilt. We have work to do. That's great stuff. It was an answer to a question from a reader named Helen. Anyway, I just wanted to try and stir you to click on that link and sign up to this guy's newsletter because he is a powerful and wonderful writer and his stuff is really great. So with that, let me say some more hellos. Hello, Nishaj. Hello, Jovanik 3D. What is, we're going to start with the questions. Yahoo. What is your opinion about the state of the film industry since AI and Netflix, quote, fast food film production? All right, let's talk about that. Let me talk about that. Here's my thought on the state of the industry since AI and Netflix. Okay, first of all, let's remember, AI has only been around for like a year. You know, in practical terms, in terms of this big, large learning model, generative AI that everyone is in terror of. As far as Netflix has been around for a decade now. Streaming, I mean, almost a decade. And what I would say about Netflix fast food film production is, honestly, I don't think it's that different than the movie studios in the 1930s and 40s, who were also churning out fast food. They had a factory. They made a product. They got it out on a weekly basis to their theaters. Many people thought it was garbage. Now and then there were priceless gems among the fast food. I think that that's probably true of Netflix as well. The scale means that there's a lot of junk, but in another way, the scale allows for a lot of cool and different stuff. I mean, honestly, I would never know about TV series from India or Korea or Germany or Sweden if it wasn't for Netflix. It's not something that was available to me until Netflix said, hey, let's go global. Let's just glom everything on and we'll show it to everybody. I'm not sorry about that. It does mean that we need to figure out ways to find our way through the morass, the giant pile. But I don't think the giant pile is inherently bad. I remember way back 20, 25 years ago, I went to a little seminar by this guy who was interested in festival distribution, indie film festival distribution. And he brought as a guest Ted Sarandos, the guy who now is Mr. Netflix, the guy who runs it. Ted Sarandos was talking to us about his idea about what Netflix, which then was just discs, could do. And what he said he wanted was basically to have everything there, to have the Library of Alexandria, which meant that every little indie film would be there. Maybe not many people would want those things, but it would be nice to have them there. I love that. I have to say, as much as Ted Sarandos has been bashed in many ways, I kind of like him. I kind of like what he's done. I don't love, and I'm not sure how much this is Sarandos. I think this may be Hastings, the guy who actually owns Netflix. Um, the the quality of saying let's just ruthlessly slash at the people who work there. It's very easy to get fired there. There's a huge turnover there. There is a tech industry sense of that the material within is just content, and you should, A and B test it and push this and pull that. I don't get a sense that that's Ted Sarandos. Actually, I believe that Sarandos actually likes movies. I think he likes content. He likes the stuff, and so I'm gonna vote for allowing the world to keep filling our coffers with more and more stuff, more fast food, because amongst that's not all fast food. Some of it is high quality food. There's some good stuff there, and there's a lot of crap. And that was always true of the industrial art industry. If you look at old radio shows, if you look at silent films, if you look at studio films, I highly recommend, by the way, if you want to get some thoughts into your head about what the history of film is, please watch Turner Classic Movies. It's a streaming app as well as a cable channel. Turner Classic Movies. They dig deep into some of the unknown, lesser known, forgotten products of the movie factory back in the golden age. A lot of it's bad. A lot of it is fast food of their time. So what I would say is, my opinion of the industry is that Netflix is not inherently a bad idea. I believe they have some bad business practices. I don't think it's great that they will not. They're not big on residuals. They like to pay somebody and then own the stuff. And if your thing becomes a hit, you get no bigger piece of it. On the other hand, they're paying, and most of the things aren't a hit. So a lot of creators are not losing out. I don't know. I'm not gonna bash Netflix for that. I will bash Netflix for the algorithm. I wish that there was a way sometimes to turn off or refresh or scramble the algorithm, because what happens is it gives you it makes it hard for you to find things that it doesn't think you want. And if you are like me, on a different day, I will be practically a different person in terms of what I want. So one day I want documentaries about jazz, and one day I want very, very silly comedies, and one day I want deep, powerful art films. That's the goal, and that's what Netflix has in theory in there. And this is true of any streaming service. Anyway, those are my thoughts. As far as AI, it is a horrendous and stupid idea to believe that AI is going to create anything good at any time in the future. Is it a useful tool in terms of filling in the crowds and the backgrounds of scenes, or as in The Brutalist, tweaking the Hungarian accents of actors who don't speak Hungarian? Yeah, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong. I mean, I don't believe that AI should be reading scripts and deciding whether they're good. I don't believe that AI should be writing first drafts. I believe that is just a poor use of the technology. And actually, I'm going to talk about this a little bit, because, for instance, if you live in a city that has GPS directions on any one of your mapping softwares, they're using a version of AI, not generative AI, but they are using, like, if you say, I want to go from here to there, it will map out a route. If you know the city, you will very quickly get to realize that route is not the best route. It's probably not. It's simply a mathematical formula based on how many cars they believe will be on the. It's just not good. It's actually not. It's fine. It's helpful, but the idea that this is actually giving us the best quality is very incorrect. Anyway, my basic feeling is that AI is only a threat to the extent that people in the running the business are idiots. AI is not is not terminatoring the business. The business people are terminatoring the business. They are saying, "Oh, we can get an AI to do this, and it's better than those ornery artists." That's the bad thing. The AI itself is not the problem. It's a tool. That's my thought. But people running businesses are a disaster area. Okay, hi Doreen. Burgundy is pointing out that Angels in America has adapted into a limited TV series. I'm saying limited, she didn't. With Al Pacino and Meryl Streep, indeed, and I was actually just rewatching some of it. It's from HBO, so you can see it on Max. It's 6 parts, 7 hours. It's wonderful. It's not the same as the play. I was watching it to compare because I had just read the plays. And it's actually an amazing example of a creative adaptation by the same writer and a marvelous director, Mike Nichols. The Angels in America limited series is wonderful. It's not the same as the play. The scenes are substantially different, the dialogue. So I would say, if possible, absorb both. J Square. Hey, I often have a theme, elements, but struggle to commit to or find the external arc. Also, what Indian series have you been liking? Okay, to confess, I have not watched that much Netflix recently, and I have not watched any Indian series or any series. I was watching Black Doves recently, which is British, not Indian. I was mainly actually thinking just that I like seeing that it's there. I haven't watched Dark, the German series. There's a lot of things I haven't watched, but I throw them on my queue and I'm like, damn, I want to watch these sometime. I'm fascinated that they are opening a door for me into other things. So unfortunately, I must say, I was simply saying I like that they're there. I have not, unfortunately, been watching many series at all. Just haven't had the time. Okay, so let's get to J Square's question. But I will say, by the way, if it wasn't for Netflix, I wouldn't have watched RRR, which was a blast and a revelation, and I had a great time with that. Okay, I often have a theme, elements, but struggle to commit or find an external arc. Okay, let's talk. First thing is, I hope that you will watch my lesson videos. This is the 50 short videos here on the playlist. This is where I detail in detail a lot of steps you can take to structure and find your process. The main videos that I would offer on that, first of all, I think when it comes to find an external arc, I don't know that I believe that there isn't this famous like external, internal. There's a story. You're writing a story. What I would suggest is start with this video, 6 essential questions. I will try to put a link down in the bottom of this, in the description of this video, about 10 minutes after I am done with this broadcast. But that's the first one I would do. But there's so many of my videos are about that. When you say I struggle to commit to or find an external arc, what you're talking about is finding a story, a structure. Now, first of all, it is possible to work without it. I mean, if you are interested in doing an artistic, less archy story, something like Terrence Malick does, for instance, Robert Altman very often. There's many, Wim Wenders. The Wings of Desire has a rough shape, but it's often just exploring different angles of this moment and this story and this idea. So what I would say is, first of all, do try to read the classic how to structure a screenplay books, if you can. Sid Field, McKee, Vogler. There's a lot of screenplay writing books. They will help give you models, and you might gather from them some useful tools. You don't have to do what they say. I was just saying, if you're looking for a way to find an arc, but really, the question is, when you say you struggle to commit, that's really a different question, isn't it? That's a question of what's keeping you, like if you want to commit, but you're not, if you're struggling with that, that's the question there is, why are you struggling? What are you afraid of? Are you afraid that you will make the wrong choice? That usually the answer is going to be you are afraid of something. That's usually why someone struggles to commit. So the answer I would say is A, please look at my videos, because there's just so many details there on ways to structure a story. There's a video called Building Character Arcs, right on target there, is just one of many. There's just a lot. So all I can say is keep trying. Honestly, if your biggest problem is you can't commit to an arc, artificially do it. Force yourself. Choose a story, choose an ending, choose a main character. Even if you don't like it, even if you don't believe it, if your biggest struggle is choosing, is committing, and you cannot find a way to care more about one than the other, just do it as an experiment. See what happens. Greetings and good morning. Indeed. Hello, Moria. And Trivikram, hello. How to create a whole world of a story in a one-page synopsis. Please. Like adding emotions, character words. Okay, let's just be clear. You cannot create a whole world of a story in one page. If you did, you wouldn't need the story. The whole point of a one page is it is going to be basically a very, very brief summary of a few key points. One page, that's all you're going to get to do. You can't possibly create the whole world. So the main thing in a one-pager is you're trying to define the main character. You're trying to define the main thing that they want, or the problem that they have, the thing that they are trying to do in this particular story. And you want to define why that is hard. Why it is something that they can't, we're just like, oh, I wonder how they're going to do that. That seems like a hard thing to do. If there is an antagonist or a specific problem, let us know. You want to try and define the main situation in which they find themselves, the world, and that's all you're going to get to. Different people believe that you should or should not put the ending into a one-pager. I'm not sure that you should. A one-pager is just something to say, will you read this? You don't want to give away the whole story in a one-page synopsis, because the goal is to get someone to read the thing itself. If for whatever reason you are being required to do a synopsis with including the ending, then that means you have even less room. You're basically just going to get the setup and the ending, and that's all you're going to get to put into one page. One page ain't much. So the answer is don't try. Don't try to get a whole world into a synopsis. A synopsis is the main character, the main problem they have, the main thing that they are trying to overcome or get past or get through in order to get what they do. And if you must give away the ending, then how they do it. Hello, Pelicans. And then DG says in Hal's voice, Netflix's algorithm knows what you want better than you do, Glenn. And that's true. That is certainly true. Okay, Donna, question. To be honest, I want to borrow your brain for a minute. That's what I'm here for. I have a short which stars nature as characters. I'm doing it solo. I want it to be both visually interesting and simple. Any ideas? That's a biggie. That's a big task. First of all, it's a short. So you're saying nature as characters. I'm not entirely sure. Like, is nature a character? And if so, what is the relationship of nature to other characters? Honestly, I think this is actually revealing, and this is something I do want to talk about. Look at the question. I think you will find that one of the almost always, if you look at the question you're going to ask me, you're going to find the answer I'm going to give you. The first one is you have to break down your question into separate problems because they are separate problems. You have here that you're doing a short which stars nature's characters. There's no inherent reason why you can't do that. The question is, how are you going to personify? Like, how are we going to visually see nature? Is nature a person? Is nature an anthropomorphic version of nature? If not, how are we seeing it do things? Because remember, any dramatic narrative, people have to do things. Second of all, you say, I'm doing it solo. So the question is, do you mean you're actually shooting it by yourself? And if so, that's a whole other set of questions. Like, technically, are you capable of doing that? You have to do sound and camera together, plus any other stuff. Then you want it to be interesting and simple visually. So my ideas are, it sounds like a good set of things to want. I just don't understand. I literally don't understand the problem. The problem is, how do you visualize nature? If you are doing it with an actor playing nature, the question is, what's happening? What's the story? What are we going to see? What is the main event? What are you saying about nature? Those are some of the questions I have. My answer is, I have questions. That's my answer. Okay. Mookie MC says, as always, big business people and studio honchos are messing things up. Except the ones who option my scripts. They are the salt of the earth. Yes, Mookie MC has a very good point. Yes. No, you know what? There are many good executives, many good producers, and many bad ones. And that is how life is. Okay, Burgundy is talking about AI. Language replacement is so bizarre. If they did it in English, people would freak out because of the uncanny valley. Voice replacement in general is actually a worry for voice actors in Europe. Yes. Okay, if we're talking about AI, which is just such a big topic, but if we're talking about the slice of it, which is using it to replace humans, the answer is bad. The answer is almost never will that work well. The way we can tell this, by the way, partly is if you read subtitles. Often I have subtitles on, can't hear something, whatever. It is shocking how often the AI-generated subtitles will misunderstand what the character is saying and simply write the wrong things. No one is checking this stuff, so I keep watching things and seeing that the AI-generated subtitles and what the actor is saying are substantially different. That's bad. That's actually unacceptable. You shouldn't have that. No, the replacing an actor with a voice generator should be unacceptable. It should be unacceptable. We as audiences should protest it. Certainly unions should be doing everything they could to fight it. And business people should just be better. Honestly, if you think you're saving money somehow by hiring an AI, first of all, you're probably not in the long run. And second of all, even if you are, you're saving money by producing crappier material. I vote no. Benedict on Games says, I wrote a pilot for a competition but didn't get anywhere. Would it be better to work on it more or write a different pilot? That's an interesting question. It will depend on what you think is wrong. Like, do you think that you didn't get anywhere because simply contests are just there's too many of them, there's too big, there's too much going on, and you fell through the cracks? In other words, do you feel that pilot was good? I expect you did. You submitted it. But sometimes people are like, well, it's the best I could do. So the answer would be, if you feel that you have something that you would like to make better, you should work on it more. If you don't feel it, if you really think like, this is great and these people are idiots for not giving me a prize, which is a fair feeling to have, sometimes you'll be right, sometimes you'll be wrong, but if you feel it, then work on a new thing. I will say one thing. I do believe it's very important to remember that acceptance by contests or by the business is not a good way to judge your own work. You may be not accepted for many, many reasons. You may be not accepted because you're being judged by an AI. You could be not accepted because you're being judged by people who are essentially acting like AI in that they are following a set of rules which you may not be following. This happens a lot. You have a layer of the industry called readers, and these readers are very often writers themselves, frustrated filmmakers. Sometimes they will have very strong agendas. They will say, you need to follow this model, you need to have this, or they could just say, oh, I don't like rom-coms, or I don't think that things with unhappy endings work, whatever. So, you have to think about whether or not you're going against any grains, which would make it harder for you to get accepted, even though what you're doing is good. The idea that we will judge our work only by acceptance into this narrow bottleneck of competitions or business, people hiring or paying for it, not a great way to be an artist. You should certainly consider what are the odds of your particular style, vision, topic from getting through the business's particular desires at the moment, because those are going to be slim. But the main thing that you should determine whether or not you work on something more is, do you think it could be better? Do you look at it now and say, oh, this scene's running a little long? Then work on it. If you think, damn, I think that's good, I like it, I'm feeling pretty good about that, it's not gonna, yes, it's a little indie rom-com, or yes, it's a massively expensive sci-fi epic, those are all reasons that you could get rejected, even though you're doing the thing you wanted to do and you're doing it well, but the thing you want to do is rejectable. In other words, if you are doing something that's immensely expensive, or simply, you're doing something that is set in a world that the business feels is going to be hard to sell. I was working on something involving Neanderthals. It's a great idea, actually. A producer brought me this idea. It's a great idea. There's just no way to get the studios to do that story. They're just like, these people are not talking in human language and they look dirty, so it's going to be hard to sell. The answer is, do you feel it could be made better? If so, rewrite it. What avant-garde or ahead of its time films would you recommend for its spectacle and break of conventional rules about structure and world? That's a big, hard question. Avant-garde or ahead of its time films would you recommend? This may be too hard for me to answer, just off the top of my head. I'm thinking so many things at the same time, and I'm kind of drawing a blank. I'm going to put that on the back burner. I may answer that another time, or that one's too hard. That's too hard. Sorry. The ADR for Burgundy is saying the ADR for Tahram Rahim's character in Madame Web was better. Yeah, yes, there's a lot of crappy stuff going on out there about with voicing and even visuals. There is no doubt. Just like with any new technology, people are jumping on it. It's like for a while there, zoom lenses in the early 1960s, people were just jumping on. They were zooming in and out like it was no tomorrow. And then eventually what happens is a more sophisticated use of the tool will hopefully be developed. So my answer still is, I wouldn't outlaw AI in terms of using it as a tool for various technical phases of work. but I would just use it very gingerly like any other tool. Okay, Lake Filter says, I try to intertwine multiple characters' conflicts and ended up with each taking turns progressing bit by bit. Any hint on smoothing it so it feels more intertwined rather than taking turns? Okay, tip one would be see if there's any points at which they can cross over or be in each other's worlds. Two, try different shape of intertwining or taking turns. Francis Coppola famously talked about in The Godfather Part 2, which moves back and forth in time between two generations of a family. And he said in the initial cut, they had about 10 minutes in each world, and then they would switch to the other time period for about 10 minutes, and they'd switch. And they found that the audience didn't like it. However, weirdly, they found that if they increased the time spent in any one period to 20 minutes-ish, the audience loved it. In other words, they needed more time to get involved in the story, so that it was better to go back and forth less. On the other hand, sometimes it's better to go back and forth more. You have to try things out and experiment to see what you can do. But inherently, you are taking turns. The only thing that you can do is try to make those taking turns feel cliffhangery. In other words, that you understand the direction something is going in, but it's unfinished, so that you're eager to get back to it. Another thing that you can do is try to find either parallel or conflicting things that are happening, so that when you get back and forth, there's a feeling like they relate to each other. In other words, oh, if both of these characters in these two storylines are suffering from, discrimination, that's a theme. I understand. We're seeing two versions, two variations on a theme. Or it could be that one person is having a joyous time and one person is having a horrible time, and the contrast helps you feel both either way. The answer is experiment. Try and think about what it is that you are doing when you leave and when you go. What is the value of leaving? What is the value of stopping? Creating suspense, raising a subject. There's a lot of things that go on when you go back and forth between storylines. The other thing I would say is the main thing you want to do is look at other work that does that. And there's an awful lot of work in this world with multiple storylines. TV series especially, because they have more time, they can do it. But look at movies with multiple characters, with multiple central characters, and see how they do it. Analyze them. Look at that work. Try and take art apart, as I said in this video, which means you study examples of work that is doing the same thing you are trying to do, that you may find great or you might find terrible. But the point is, by watching it repeatedly and being analytical about it, actually stopping and saying, how are they doing what they are doing? That's a helpful thing. Okay, Lazy Axolotl, greetings. Do you think that your method for writing movie scripts would work for writing a story in a game? I thought since it made sense to me, I should try it, but I don't know if you think I don't know if it's a good idea. What do you think? Yeah, sure. Here's the thing. There are differences in game storytelling and regular straight narrative TV and movies, because you're interacting with it. But that shouldn't stop you from first of all, my method, what I'm basically trying to do is get you to understand characters and actions and be involved, like try to figure out what you are doing scene by scene. Thinking in scenes, understanding characters as action, as taking action. These are things that definitely should work in a game. That's absolutely, I would think it would work very well. The question becomes what form of game it is. For instance, if you have a game with diverging paths where if you do this thing, you're going to have a whole different story. You just need to be able to think in terms of, okay, first I'm going to do this path, then I'm going to do that path. And you have to be able to articulate for yourself a satisfying version of alternate versions of the story. But either one of those versions, you should be able to pursue the way I work by doing it. So yeah, I believe that some of the essentials of narrative will definitely be useful in games. I think games are a really cool narrative form, and I think it would be worth trying. So that my answer is, if you run into something where it's not helping, just don't do that part. There you go. Dr. Clock, hello, nice to meet you too, says, have you ever come up with an idea only to find out it had been done before? Oh yeah. More frustrating actually is to come up with an idea, work on it for a long time, and somebody else then comes out with that same idea before you finish. That's even worse. Because if you come up with an idea and you start it and somebody says, oh, I already saw that in this XYZ, it's disappointing, but to actually be working on something for a long time, as I tend to do, just increases the chances that someone else is going to do it first. My solution to this problem is try to research. When you come up with an idea, see who's done things like it, which you should do anyway, because if you've got an idea, you want to see how other people have already done it to see what you want to try and avoid, or what you want to do differently, or what you want to do the same but in your own way. So once again, you want to look at what has been done in your field, no matter what it is you're doing. But the answer is, have I come up with an idea and found out it's been done before? Yes. And that is only going to increase for all of us, because people are making a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff coming out. And there's so much stuff in the past now that you might not even know about it. Oh, well, you do the best you can. Also, honestly, unless like you're using the same names and particular gimmicks and plot beats or something, there's nothing wrong with doing a similar thing to something else. The only thing you would want to do is if it was a really, really unique, unbelievably different idea, then you might say, oh, well, I guess I can't do that. For instance, The Substance. Now, The Substance is a movie that came out recently, which is pretty original. And yet there are elements of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and the picture of Dorian Gray, and there's many, the Thing. There's all sorts of elements of other things, and The Shining, that are being used in that work. But it doesn't mean that she shouldn't have made it, because The Substance is a blast, and I think it's a good movie. And the answer is, just because something is doing something that other people have also done does not mean you should not do it. There aren't that many ideas. There aren't that many stories, but the different versions are worth doing. Shakespeare's plays were mostly based in other stories or plays or histories or whatever. Okay. XX Soulfly XX. Hello. What's good to have you here. Thank you for being here. What's your advice on adapting a short story into a screenplay? Recently, I got permission to turn someone's short horror into a screenplay. My advice would be, go for it. Great. The only thing I would say, the great thing, if you're adapting a short story, you're not going to have the problem, which is usually the adaptation problem, that there's too much in there for you to do. So the fact that you were going the other direction, that you were going from a short story which has relatively few incidents and characters, means great. Explore it. Try and really get the essence of it. It will depend on how the story works and how you're planning to adapt it. But my basic advice is try to break down the story into its component parts, into its characters and scenes and elements, and write them all down and take them apart, break it down so you have scenes. Thinking in scenes is really important. I urge you to watch this video. And once again, I will try to put a link to all these videos I'm referring to in the description after this episode is done being live. By the way, please, we're heading towards 2 o'clock, and I have a phone call I have to take at 2ish. So please, no more questions, because I see that there's a whole bunch now. But anyway, my answer is, my basic feeling about adaptation is read through the original material several times. And at least once, read through and literally break it into pieces, break it into all its component pieces and lay them out on paper as pieces so that you can start to work with those pieces and say, what am I bringing to this? And how am I going to adapt this piece and that piece? I don't see any downside. I don't see, my advice is, I do not see any particular downside to adapting a short story into a screenplay. It is preferable, frankly, to adapting a novel, because you'll never get everything in if it's a novel, usually. Hi, TT. Line says, hello, Line. If you write a plot twist, how do you come up with it in terms of structure? Well, this is interesting because I happen to have done a whole video on plot twists. It's called Plot Twists, and in it I talk in detail about what I think are the different versions of plot twists and what are the advantages and disadvantages of plot twists, and in terms of structuring them. So my answer would be, please watch that video. Okay. Mookie MC says, have you recorded any videos that upon reflection you wish you had explained differently? I'm not asking because I have something in mind. I'm just curious if you would revise any advice. Yeah, actually the plot twist thing. The plot twist one, I was trying to break down the difference between what I would call a shock and a twist. And I think that it's not that the distinction isn't real. I think it's just not that important. So I probably would have played that down a little, but it's still a good video. So, but you know, upon reflection, do I wish I had explained things differently? Not too many in the short videos. In these live streams and stuff, yeah, I constantly wonder whether I don't look back on these very much, because it's just time consuming. So I have no doubt that there will be things I'll be like, oh, you should have said that differently. But I'll probably never see them, so I'm going to live with it. Donna, thanks, I have answers, but not enough space here to expand. My issue is if I film, say, a bird, butterfly, cloud, and Earth itself having a conversation and add VO, I'm just filling a doco with attitude. I don't think that's true. I think it's worth experimenting with. Like if you were to film a bird and a cloud, the question would be, you have to film an awful lot of bird behavior to, like, depending on your story, you just wouldn't have the material you want. But I don't see any reason why that couldn't work. It could be sort of cool. I would say try it. Just recognize that you're going to run into questions and problems that you can't foresee until you try it. But it isn't necessarily wrong to say I'm going to do VO over visuals of nature. The question is, what are they doing? What are we getting from them? I mean, is it just a lecture? If it's just a lecture, that's okay, but try and make it a moving and directional monologue, a soliloquy. Or if it's a debate, then where's it starting? Where's it going? And how is the visuals going to capture that? That's the question. Hello, Adam's Movie. I'm writing a horror short. May I read? May you? No, I'm afraid. I appreciate the questions. Will I read it and give my thoughts? And the answer is I can't. I wish I could. For when I started this channel, I was intending to be doing consultations and reading people's work as well. I simply have not got the time anymore because I'm trying to do my own stuff plus live my own life. So the answer is I cannot read your work. It is not a reflection of anything except I am getting old and worried about getting my own work done. Shay Price, what do you think? Hi, Shay. Nice to meet you. What do you think about analyzing and figuring out what you want the audience to feel at specific parts at the start of, or at least some of the writing process? Okay. I think that it's inherent for me, at least, to think, how's the audience going to take this, whatever it is that I'm doing? I don't know how much I analyze it as much as I discover it or look for it or enjoy it or want it. But the answer is yes. When I write anything, a part of me is thinking, how's the audience going to get this? That's why I'm writing it the way I'm writing it, because I'm trying to withhold certain information or emphasize certain qualities. That's all part of that. And then, if I come up with a good line and I think, they're going to laugh at that, or, that's going to really get them. Yeah, I'm thinking that all the time. I think I would say you don't have to. If you come up with something, you just like it and you're not analyzing how it's going to work. All right. There's certainly nothing wrong with thinking about how the audience will receive the things you are doing. I would say that there isn't an analytical framework by which you want to approach that. You just want to think, okay, I'm in the audience. I'm watching this thing. I've watched the X, Y, and Z, and now A shows up. How is that going to make me feel? I think that's a natural part of writing. I don't know how to write without doing that. Benedict says, thank you for answering, and it was helpful. I am so glad. Burgundy is pointing out that when you have multiple characters, you can use multiple points of views. I don't know what GRRM stands for. Oh, I got a thumbs down. I'm sorry. What was that about? Tell me why. Anyway, Tim Spears. It feels like Tim Spears says, it feels like in the last 25 years, Hollywood has added much more exposition. Oh, it was a wrong click. I got you. The thumbs down. Hollywood has added much more exposition and character background than the 90s and before. What's some techniques to get characters introduced succinctly? That's an interesting question. I do talk about this to a certain extent in the character video and in the flashbacks video, because that's where sometimes a lot of that exposition-y stuff comes in. Tim's question is basically, there's a lot more exposition and character background. I don't know that that's true, or maybe it's in waves, because I know that certainly back in the 40s and 50s, there was an awful lot of that. They laid out stuff a lot, quite slowly, in fact. But even if it is not new, it certainly is required often to give a lot of character and background and exposition. So what are some techniques to get characters introduced succinctly? I would say the main thing is remember that you don't have to get it all out in the beginning. You can lay in the background and the exposition as the story develops because of the story. In other words, there's a Saving Private Ryan. There's a nice scene with Ryan and his sergeant when everyone is taking a rest and they're talking quietly, and you get a sense of their past in the battles they have fought before, and their analysis of the people in their squad. But that doesn't happen till like 45 minutes in. Very often, or famously in Saving Private Ryan, the question of what does the captain, what was his life before? That's a plot point that isn't. It's like 2 hours in that they get to it. There's nothing wrong with only introducing an element of a character at the beginning and then developing, building, unveiling as you go along, so you don't have to put it all up front. That would be my main thing, is to say, start small, start with just a single hooky element and say, this person is very menacing, or this person is very afraid. And then slowly but surely you show why, or what they're trying to do with it, or things like that. That would be my advice. Introducing characters and allowing the background to develop during and because of and part of the story. Don't put it all at the beginning. Okay, I'm skipping down here because I've got to go. Unfortunately, I have a phone call I must make. Okay. Thread of Nemesis. Threat of Nemesis. Sorry. Hello, Threat of Nemesis. Quick question. Will you be making more videos or just live streams going forward? That is a quick question. And the quick answer is I have one more video, which I think is going to be kind of a hefty one. That's why I haven't done it. About this issue of balances, of things where you don't really ever resolve them. Other than that, I'm not actually planning to make any more videos because I need to turn my attention to new elements of my ongoing projects. So the answer is live streams from now on. It's so funny because in a business sense, in terms of creating a channel and getting people to watch it, I shouldn't say this and I shouldn't do it. I should keep making these videos. I said what I have to say. I really tried to get as much as I could into those videos. But the main point for me is I want to finish the novel I'm writing, and then I have this other fiction idea that I think I want to do some kind of let you watch me work and develop it live or ongoing. And I think that's going to sort of take over my time and my internet presence. So the answer is I'm going to be focusing more on the projects I'm going to do next, because I feel like the teaching project, which is what this is for me, I did what I need to do. There's still I kind of think sometimes about putting out a book version of the videos, and that might be another element, but that still wouldn't be more videos. Sorry. Okay. Thank you. Hello, Helene C. from France. About the multiple characters intertwining storylines reminds me of the film Magnolia. Absolutely. I love the film Magnolia. It is a wonderful interwoven character story. And yes, I would add that definitely to a list of things to examine for how they do it. There are layers of story in which they increasingly cross over. In other words, you find out that various people in various storylines actually meet or know each other or have some relationship. If you're doing that kind of story, it helps. But sometimes you're doing stories with different stories and they're not going to meet. Cloud Atlas also. I like it. A lot of people don't. I think Cloud Atlas. I think Crash, the Paul Haggis movie that controversially won Best Picture. I think that's another good one. Crash, Cloud Atlas, Magnolia, lots of good interwoven multiple story type work. Thank you, Helene. Mo Yamani, how do you approach writing a story when you have more than one protagonist? How do you structure a movie like that? The main, I think I may actually do a whole live stream about this because several people are asking about it. The main way that I would say to look at that is, once again, this video, Building Character Arcs, talks about how to envision structurally the different storylines. And so I urge you, once again, to watch the character video, but especially the Building Character Arcs. And the other thing is, if you are trying to do multiple storylines and you're not using an outline, it's going to be hard. It's not that it's undoable. You may follow your instincts and have to go back and rewrite things, but in general, I would say that it helps to use an outline when you are juggling multiple storylines. Hey, Aroset. Very nice. Hey, I'm sorry that I am indeed leaving in a minute, but I'm so glad that you are here. I'm so glad that all of you are here. And those of you whose comments I skipped because you were talking to each other, I hope that you understand why. This has been delightful. I will do more. I will also get onto this multiple character thing because it's about the third or fourth time I've been asked this question recently. And so I'm promising to do a full live stream on the topic of multiple characters soon. In the meantime, be well. Once again, if you get a chance, please try to read this play, Angels in America. The revised and complete edition is a fabulous paperback version. It's just great. And check out Nick Cave's Red Hand files. The link is below. And with that, I urge you to go write something.